I'm Ali Wentworth. I'm married to George Stepp.
He's probably on the phone.
George, I never ever get to see you at home. The Daily Shot is basically like me saying to you, these are the hot stories. This is what people are talking about. There's a lot of hanging out in the lobby of the school and moms talking. So, it's just a way to go, listen, you have a crazy life. You're doing 8 million things. Just so you know, this is what's going on in the world around you. This is your Daily Shot for Monday, March 26th, for Wednesday, April 4th. In national news, I don't know if you've seen the story yet. In entertainment news, Kim Kardashian was flower bombed. We're trying to make this funny. In sports news, I don't know if you watched the Masters, but
Oh, I did.
Romney
Killed.
46%.
I love that it is so small and easy.
We are big crafters. Please don't write any mean comments about I have bags under my eyes.
That was bad.
Oh, we have a
Thank
question
God you're
for you.
here.
So George will be very helpful in that way. He's my little news bitch. It's Monday. Time to buy some sea monkeys day. It's Tuesday, yogurt face mask day. It's Friday, give your proctologist a wedgie day. Have a great weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome actress, comedian, and author Ali Wentworth.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Keep eating. Sit down. Just so you know, that little cosmopolitan glass on your table is dessert. Because I just downed 2 of those before I came on stage. So just, so my girls at Disney asked me a few weeks ago. They said, "Will you do the iMedia iMoms Summit?" And naturally, I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What is that?" And I'm just learning about digital media. I had dinner with a friend last night, and I said, "I'm going to Orlando for a digital media event." And he said, "It's digital media, why do you have to actually go?" And I thought, it's true. It's like if I went to a Skype convention. I don't need to show up, right? Aren't we all digital now? And one of the things that they wanted me to talk to you about, because I am not a scholar or anybody of any interest that could teach you anything, except I am a mom. I have birthed children. And I know, yay, woohoo! I did it! Vaginally. I know, even better and more fun. But I started doing the show, and you saw a few clips of it, called The Daily Shot with Ali Wentworth, and it's kind of a way in sort of 5 minutes for women, working women, non-working women, to kind of get the news, and also there's a funny spin. I like to say Jon Stewart kind of copies what I do. But, and it's interesting because you heard recently in the news when Hillary Rosen said about Ann Romney that she's never worked a day in her life, and suddenly it became this big conversation about working moms versus stay-at-home moms. Well, I got all these calls from CNN asking me, would I come on and discuss the battle? And I said, why do you want me to come on and discuss the battle? And they said, well, you straddle both those things, a stay-at-home mom and a working mom. And I thought, well, how do I straddle both of those things? Aren't you either a working mom or a stay-at-home mom? So anyway, the thing with The Daily Shot is, and I'm going to be perfectly candid, I do it from my kitchen table, so that's easy. And I take my kids to school, I come back while our cameraman and my producer set up, which means they go through my fridge, and then we shoot the show and we edit it and we send it out. And it's kind of a great thing. And why I love it so much, besides it's at my kitchen table, and my husband, George Stephanopoulos, comes in and tells me that I've got the stories all wrong. But besides that, it's, for some reason, the environment in which I do this, it does feel very mom-friendly. And I've sort of gotten to know that mom world. And that is through The Daily Shot and also through Twitter, which is a whole new thing for me, too. Which I've gotten in trouble for because I I used to tweet when my husband would do the debates, and I'd say bad things like, "Stop sexting me, honey." But when I tweet or when I talk about mom issues on The Daily Shot, there seems to be a synergy. I know that's a word in viral. I'm trying to think of all the words that you guys can connect with, but a synergy with moms and what they relate to. And one of the things that I'm starting to realize is there's the relatability thing, which is some of my Disney ladies say, "Well, Ali, you're so relatable." And I go, "What does that mean, I'm relatable? Like, Angelina Jolie's not relatable, so why am I relatable? Is it because I'm blonde? Is that..." I don't want to be relatable. I want to be Kim Kardashian. I want you to want to be me. I don't want you to relate to me. I'm not like you. I'm better and thinner and faster. But one of the things that I do get and I do embrace about relatability is that I think that the moms in the cyber world, cyberspace, viral space, internet, iMedia, digital Twitter space, is social media, is that they are very honest people. Moms are honest people. You can go to any bookstore or ebook and you'll see that moms, they're very honest about everything. And I'm relatable because I have cellulite. I'm relatable because I always look tired. I'm relatable, for all these reasons that I talk about honestly and women then relate to honestly. Now, how I can help you manage the mom sphere and how you can attract moms, I have no idea. You're on your own. But, yeah, good luck, suckers. But I do know that there is an honesty about it. And I recently wrote a book, which was kind of a memoir, funny memoir about growing up in DC during Watergate and being married and having kids. And it's funny because the most feedback I get is from women, and it's usually around the marriage and the kids area. Even though I was a huge lingerie model for years, nobody ever wants to talk. See, and now I'm not being funny, and you're laughing. No, I wasn't a model. And those of you that I saw at the spa today who saw me naked in the jacuzzi know that I was never a model. I grew up in Washington. Yeah, you're going to hear a little bit about me. I grew up in Washington during Watergate, which was an incredibly difficult, repressed, kind of scary time. And my parents were all political journalists. I know, and I ended up marrying George Stephanopoulos. Believe me, I thought I was going to be Mrs. Hugh Grant, and then that scandal broke, and I was the wrong gender and race, so I knew that was never going to happen. But I grew up in Washington, and again, my parents were political journalists, and my stepfather was British, and Nixon, who was president during that time, any fans? No. He had our phones bugged because he believed that my stepfather was a spy. Now, by the way, not a spy like James Bond, naked Russian lady on a fur rug spy. More like, I've got some information, here's $5, thanks, I'll see you later. But he didn't. I mean, he didn't have any money when he died, so there's no way he was a spy. So my mother sat me and my siblings down and said, "I just want you to know something, that the government has bugged our phones. They've been tapped." And my older brother and sister said, "Oh my, that sounds horrible." And I said, "What do you mean by tapped?" And she says, "Every time you use the phone, there are people listening," which to me was the most exciting thing I'd ever heard. So needless to say, I spent a good part of my childhood picking up the phone and saying balls and then hanging up. And my husband told me later, and this is true, that you can actually go to the Library of Congress and check these tapes out, and every once in a while, you'll hear my little voice come on, balls. So I feel like I have a legacy to give to my children. So I grew up in Washington. I ended up going to an all-girls boarding school, which was less Disney and more Girl Interrupted. And then went to college, and then I was out in Los Angeles, and I I began my career, I'm telling you, it's going to come full circle. It's going to come right back to the iMoms Summit. Watch. Relatable. So I was in Los Angeles, and there was a TV show, and they were casting called In Living Color, and they were looking for a black guy to replace Damon Wayans. So naturally, I called my agent, and I said, what's the holdup? And she said, no, they really, Damon Wayans is leaving the show. They really want a black guy. And I went, and? So I actually got in the door with my little bag of wigs and costumes and a boom box of music, and you don't even want to know what I did. And I got to the next level, which was to meet Keenan Ivory Wayans, which was like going to Oz. At the time, he was bald, and he wore these dark sunglasses so you could only see your own reflection. And I came into his office, and he was eating some weird yeast, vegan, crazy meal. And I knew that I couldn't come in and say, listen, I'm this girl from Washington. My parents are in political journalism, because that's kind of what they made fun of on the show. So I thought, all right, I'm going to reinvent myself. And I went to TJ Maxx, one of my favorite stores. And are there TJ Maxx people here? Because I want you to sponsor. Are you really? Oh my gosh. Drunk liars out here in the audience. Okay. By the way, I want to know where those people are, those empty tables. No, they're by the pool. I know. I saw them. Woo! I know. All right. We clocked them. Anyway, TJ Maxx, my favorite store still. And I bought a polyester halter top and some, those dolphin shorts and really high heels. And I thought, I'm going to go in and pretend I'm somebody else. So I walk in like a newborn colt, which means I still can't walk in heels. And I told Keenan that I grew up in a trailer with my brother / uncle / husband / grandfather. And, he believed me, and I got the job. And it wasn't until 6 months later that the truth came out. And I said, I remember thinking at that time, it's all about reinvention all the time. Yes, he thought I was a white trash whore, and that got me the job. And in many cases, it's gotten me jobs after that. But I think that you reinvent with the time. So then from In Living Color, I did some movies, I did some other television shows, and I was single living in LA. I know, how is this possible that she was on the market for at least a minute? But I was. I just ended a nice relationship with a British movie star, and I'm not saying who it is, but I held on to his ankles as he tried to leave on his Virgin Atlantic plane. I know. He was like, this was just a fun fling, and I was like, I love you so much. That's okay, he got his later. So I was single, and I was having this birthday party for some girls, and what I mean by that is it's a bunch of girls at my house, doing mani-pedis, and there was massage and all kinds of things that you only do once in college. And and this one woman said, oh, Ali, you have to start dating, which was a whole concept for me, because I'd been in these long, laborious relationships, and I thought, well, I'm not going to date. And in LA, your choice is an agent or an actor, and it's really, any agents or actors here? They're evil and dumb. So I didn't want to date those people. So I set up this woman with my brother, because she was tall, my brother was tall, and I figured, that's enough for a relationship. And it ended up being the worst thing. They dishes smashed. It was a horrible, horrible date. But in return, she said, you know what, I can set you up with my ex-boyfriend. And I said, okay, who's your ex-boyfriend? And she said, George Stephanopoulos. And I said, no, not interested. I know who he is. No. And isn't he gay? And she said, no, he's not gay. He's just 40 and not married. And I said, you know what? I grew up in that world. I don't want to be no, please. Does anybody know Matthew Perry? Anybody? So finally, I was in New York. And again, I thought, I lived in LA, he lived in New York. There was no way this was going to work. And I was in New York for work, and I said, oh, fine, I'll just call him. It's a good dinner party story to tell later. So I called him up, and I said, hi, George, this is Ali Wentworth. Do you want to have a date? And he said, how about dinner? And I said, how about coffee? Because dinner is like, that's a commitment. And I said, how about coffee? And he said, how about lunch? And I said, okay, how about at Barney's? Because I figure if it was a complete mess, I'd get my Kiehl's grapefruit exfoliator and it wouldn't be a total wash. So I walked in and I swear to God, I may have showered. I know I didn't shave my legs because I only do that for very, very special occasions. And I had no expectations. I knew who this guy was, and it was not going to take. And I came in and we sat down and we had crab salad. We didn't talk about politics. We talked about Zoloft, which I'm a big fan of. And I'm telling you, by the end of lunch, it was, I say in my book, it was like a good melon. I just knew. And we were engaged 2 months later and married 6 months later, and just had our 10th wedding anniversary. Oh, thank you. I'm dating other people, but as far as a marriage goes, it's solid. And we have these 2 adorable little girls that every once in a while make a little cameo in the Daily Shot. But the interesting thing is, are there any Greeks here? Yeah? So no one told me when you marry one Greek person, you're actually marrying all 6 million of the Greek people. Like my big fat Greek wedding is not a lie. It's real. It exists. And so George and I got married, but we were going to elope, but that was not going to happen. His father's a priest. He was going to marry us. But I was in charge of the party, the reception, and I thought, we'll just get a great loft space and everybody will dance and be crazy. No. It was to be in the church. And his mother said, here's my list, my wedding list. And I thought, okay, great. We want about 120 people, so if you have like 30 people it was a scroll with 6,000 Greek people on it. And I said, well, this it's $40 a plate. This is not happening. This would be a quarter of what she was thinking in her head. Although we could renew our vows in Orlando, I didn't see the space. But so my mother-in-law said, well, you know what? Let me throw an engagement party the night before the wedding, and that way, we'll take care of all the Greek people that need to come. So we have this engagement party, and I'd say 10 to 11,000 people showed up, and George and I just stood there going like this, and people would pinch my cheeks or tell him like, yeah, she's pretty, which I think is really funny. I'm standing right there, and they go, she's good. They check my teeth. She's good. She's good. Thank you. And all of a sudden, the guy under the archdiocese bishop comes in, with the incense and the thing, and everybody's going, oh my God, ooh. And he comes up and he speaks to me and George for about half an hour in Greek, so it is all Greek to me. And, people are bowing and all kinds of things are happening. And I realize now that we were married that night. My mother-in-law married us that night, even though we had the big, cathedral wedding the next day. But you have to have 8.5 million people at your wedding if you're going Greek. Now, here's one more story I'm going to give you before you can have your chicken. Or fish, I don't know. So my daughters get baptized in the Greek cathedral. And let me explain something. I'm a WASP. I'm just old English talk. If I had married another WASP, we would have sickly, tubercular kids. Those portraits with the kids really pale and the bug eyes, and that's what I would have given birth to. I had to mix up the gene pool. So in WASP, when we baptize our kids, we kind of put them in these long frilly dresses that some great-grandmother wore, and it smells like mothballs, and some cap that's too small that we duct tape to the baby's head. And then we just hold the baby up, and everyone goes, oh, that's terrific, and we're done. We're going to have mimosas and smoked salmon, and it's over. That's the baptism. But not so for the Greeks. So I show up with our firstborn, Elliot, and she's dressed in my great-grandmother's thing, this long robe that goes out the door and down the street. And they put her down in a towel, and they disrobe her completely. They just take everything off, and now she's naked and crying in a huge, cold church. And I kept saying to the priest helpers, I don't know what they're called, elves, I kept saying, why are you, please don't take don't you want, I'll be naked, don't make the baby naked. And then my father-in-law, the priest, starts rubbing my baby in oil all over her body, holy oil. Again, wasps, a little bit of holy water on the forehead, and you're out. So they're rubbing oil all over my now screaming daughter. And I turned to George and I said, if they put a lemon in her ass and a sprig of rosemary, she's a Sicilian chicken. What are we doing here? So that's bad enough. But then they take my daughter over to a copper pot full of water, and they submerge her in the water. So first child, they take the baby, they push her down like this. I scream. And all of a sudden her head comes up, she goes, and they go down again. Down again. Now, I can't. All right, so in the cathedral, I look out, and there's my family, all the wasps on one side, and all the Greeks on the other. And you look at the wasp, and they're horrified. The Greeks are standing up, by the way, with Instamatic cameras like, Opa, terrific, look at the baby, she's turning purple, adorable. On the wasp side, my mother is hysterically crying, and she's saying to my siblings, look away, look away. And to this day, it was like one group of watching two different movies. The Greeks were watching My Wonderful Life, and the wasps were watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But so anyway, I'm coming to learn marrying a Greek man. I am now very immersed in the Greek world, and there'll, I'm sure, be many more stories to come. And now to wrap it up, when I talk about reinvention, I know, I'm going to get naked and rub myself in oil. When I had children, it changed. You change your priorities, your morals, everything sort of shifts. And for me now, I have a husband that anchors Good Morning America, and now this week with George Stephanopoulos on Sundays. And we're hoping he's going to play a doctor in private practice, because God forbid, from 9 to 10 p.m. on Wednesday night, he's not on the air. But I had to kind of sort of figure out how to have a career with somebody that takes an hour off a week for himself, and especially with two little children. And I've come to realize that it is the digital world that is so fascinating and such a kind of, in so many ways, undiscovered territory. And in some ways, even though a lot of people are doing it, it feels very pioneer-like. And I'm in my kitchen, so that doesn't hurt. But, and I think in terms of reinvention, now, as a mother, I have a lot more to say on a lot more subjects. And for me, this is a wonderful vehicle for that. And again, I have George come in and correct the stories. And you'll see I have a big mug of vodka every morning when I'm doing the show. But no, but really, it's a great platform, and I really applaud all of you for being involved in it, because I'm still learning about it, and I find it fascinating. So thank you, and thank you for being in Orlando. There's no reason for me to thank you for being in Orlando. This is my first time. I will be in the spa this evening at 11:05 in the jacuzzi, so if those girls, and you know who I'm talking about, want to come back, that's where I'll be. Enjoy your chicken or fish, and thank you for being at this wonderful summit, iMedia, iMoms. Have a great night. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ali. That was terrific. It was fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we all did. Thank you all for being here. We have a terrific lineup for you tomorrow morning. We have a lot more stories to tell, a lot more great brands like Coca-Cola and Hershey who will take the stage. So enjoy your evening, have a great night, and we will see more of you soon.